Hi, I'm Ben Richards.
And I'm Jack Jiggins.
We are property developers in London and the home counties. We typically work on projects between 1 and 25 units, with a GDV anywhere between £500,000 and circa £5 million currently.
We normally have 3 projects in legals, 3 projects in delivery and 3 projects in sales. So that's about 10 projects a year, and currently speaking, we're building out £16 million worth of developments. My job is to make sure the acquisitions is negotiated well and that we structure it properly.
My role in the business is to make sure that I optimise design, I make sure that our build costs are reduced as much as they can be, and that we sell quickly. So if you want to work with us, please do get in contact via the details below. We'd love to work with you.
So welcome to our mixed-use development in Spencerswood, Reading. Let's show you around the site. The GDV of this site is in excess of 2.1 million.
We've got 3 flats which are new build. We're extending what was old offices and converting into 3 flats. On this side, we've got 4 studio flats which are very compact and have been fully let since we purchased the property. So these are 7 office spaces that we've created.
And we are planning on retaining these for the rental income, sell the 3 new build flats and keep the refurbished studios.
So this used to actually be a building supplies shed at one point. It was at one point a wedding dress warehouse, and we bought it as storage basically. So we converted it into rentable grade A office spaces. We've got some local businesses that have already joined us. 3 of the 7 offices are currently tenanted, so we're waiting to let out the other 4. We've got extensions to the front here. We've converted the whole space and fully refurbished it. Offices, both ground and first floor level. We've got shared facilities, including shower and WC behind me. We've got a shared kitchenette and plenty of parking spaces for the tenants. We'll go up and show you the show office.
So Ben's given you an overview downstairs. Upstairs we have the shared kitchen, 3 more offices. I'll show you the kitchen and then an example of a furnished office. Let's have a quick look in there first. This is 7 offices and it will bring a rental income between 80 to 90,000. We've already pre-let nearly half of the space, so it's gone quite quickly. And yeah, we're looking to hold this.
So we're mid-construction here on our office to residential conversion. We're going from 7 small office units into 3 brand spanking new flats. We're extending 2 stories at the back and rearranging the space to create 1 2-bed and 2 1-beds.
So welcome to one of our latest acquisitions. This was bought in early 2020. We are in the centre of Reading, so RG1, and this Grade 2 listed building is the building we have purchased. Ben, do you want to talk us through what we're doing with it?
Sure, so this is 3,000 square feet of office space currently. We have submitted planning permission to turn the ground floor and basement level into a 2-bed duplex flat, and the upper levels will become an 8-bedroom HMO. So the idea here really is that it's a mixed scheme of investment, and also we're putting the 2-bedroom flat to the market.
So we're extremely central here. The Reading station is only really a 5-minute walk there, and main town centre's there. As you can tell, it's quite a beautiful Grade 2 listed building. The internals do need a bit of refurbishment. We might as well wait until we have a planning permission to change it. So if we go in and take a look. So there was a prerequisite tenant that was renting this space for an office basis. We've nearly got 3,000 square foot, including the basement. They vacated in May this year, so we did get some rent roll while we were working on the planning and design. And now they have vacated and we are waiting for the planning. So Ben, do you want to give us a bit more of an idea of structure and what's placed where and what we're going in for?
Sure, so this is a Grade 2 listed building, so we've got to go in for full planning permission, and we've also got to get listed building consent. Now, it's a common misconception that with the listing that is Grade 2, that it's just the bit in the Heritage England section that says, oh, it's the facade that is the Grade 2 listed section of the building. Now, actually, it's still relevant what's behind that facade. So things like the stair, which is an original feature, architraves, skirtings, all of that will still come under scrutiny by the listed building officer. So with the scheme itself, we've got the main entrance to the building, which will become the main entrance to this 2-bedroom ground floor and basement flat. You'll see a hatch behind me. There is about 300 square feet of space down there. We will be creating a new stair call down to a bedroom, ensuite and utility space. And upstairs where we're standing will be the open plan kitchen living area really high ceilings, almost 3.6 meters in height. We'll be playing around with some of the levels here to make sure we get enough space in the basement for a usable bedroom and habitable space. Playing around with some of the windows to make them higher, let more light into the space. And this will be a really, really nice 2-bedroom flat, which is so close to Reading Town Centre, so close to get out to the M4 and easily into London. I think 22 minutes now is the Crossrail train into Paddington.
So this whole building was actually funded just primarily through private finance. So we've got 2 partners with us on this scheme. One is a SaaS investor who's doing the senior debt, so we're paying them a return on their capital per year, and they've come on with a SaaS fund. The other is an equity partner that we're working with, we've worked with before, and we are fundamentally running this scheme all the way through planning just purely with private finance and no banks. Now, why is that great? It's great because back in a time where there was uncertainty in 2020, we were struggling to get funding. So we were able to approach these investors that we know to get this completely privately financed. So we offered on this building about 6 to 7 months before we actually had an offer accepted. We were outbid by a party by about £30,000. Our offer was conditional as well, conditional to planning. It then came back to us 6 months later. The vendor that owned it was more distressed. They're in a position where they were really keen to get a deal done. So we agreed a price and managed to buy this at a phenomenal discount in comparison to before. It was marketed at around £450. We managed to secure it for £375, and that was just persistence on keeping on the agent, asking if the preceding party that did outbid us was actually performing.
With Grade 2 listed buildings, it's really important to understand the existing structure, because that really does play a big part in terms of what the listed building officer will allow us to do. So what we've done, if you look upstairs, is knock a few openings in the existing plasterboard ceiling. Upstairs, we've knocked a few holes in the walls just to ascertain exactly what the current structure is. If it's the original features, then the likelihood is that we won't be able to touch it at all. If it's new build or newish build in the last 50, 60 years, then the likelihood is that we will be able to do something with it. So really, it plays a big part in terms of what our build costs are going to be and actually what the design looks like. So yeah, really important to do some trial holes, certainly with Grade 2 listed buildings.
So we're in central Reading again at our basement conversion flat development. And we crowdfunded all of the finance for this scheme. So very little equity because we had planning uplift in our favour. We're going to walk down, take a look, and Ben's going to talk you through exactly what we did to deliver these 2-bed flats.
So this was a previous block of 6 flats, as you'll see in a minute. It had a basement undercroft. It was used originally for car parking, but you'll see the entrance is way too small to get a car in nowadays. It was used as a drug den, a fire hazard, cycle storage, just a dumping ground basically. So what we've done is take something that is hugely underutilised and unloved, and we've turned it into 2-bedroom flats. So we've dug the ground down slightly to get a bit more head height. We've partitioned in the middle, created a 2-bed, 2-bath on this left-hand side, and a 2-bed family bathroom on this right-hand side. So we're inside the smaller of the 2 beds, but you'll see we've made sure that the head heights are a decent height. You don't really feel like you are in a sort of semi-submerged basement here, although it's quite echoey because there's no furniture in here. You'll see out there we've got car parking for each of the flats. And if I take you through here, you'll see from an engineering perspective what we've had to do in this property. So because ground level is basically here outside, we've had to punch these window openings into this concrete retaining wall and the structure that was already there, create some light wells out the front to let light deeper into this bedroom. So we've got a really nice open plan kitchen, living, dining space here. We've got space for a nice table, sofa, TV on the wall, and then a really spacious kitchen with a bar stool area, Howden's kitchen units, nice feature taps, feature tiles. All mod cons, but not really to a high spec. This area and this flat sold for £257,000. So we have to provide a specification that kind of suits that market.
So welcome to our police station site in Sonning Common in Reading. This particular site is one that we bought, achieved planning and sold on. Ben's going to tell you about what planning we achieved.
Sure, so this was a 3-bedroom police house and an office single story to the side. Clearly infill development potential, so basically we increased the terrace to the right hand side with a 2-bedroom house, and we went to the left hand side above the existing commercial office with another 2-bed split level sort of masonette. So we ended up with 3 houses, and we actually maintained the commercial unit that was there existing. So there's a 40-metre squared small office unit. We didn't really want to lose that community asset from the area. So from a planning perspective, it was a massive bonus for us to keep that 40 metres cubed of commercial units. And Jack's going to explain who that actually went to in the end.
So when you're selling on a site with planning, which is what we did with this, and I will come on to explain why you might sell a site with planning, we knew that a small commercial space in a very highly residential area might be seen as a bit of a liability, but we knew that there was a local charity looking to purchase their own freehold space. So there's a local charity called Fish, who are a volunteer centre who drive elderly people to do their errands, the doctor's appointments, shopping, etc. We agreed a pre-sale to them before we sold the site with planning, and then they came to an agreement of how the developer built that out for them. So we had pre-sold the office and we were selling this development of 3 residential homes to the developer. Let's take a walk through and I'll explain why we sold it on in the garden. You might be asking the question, why would we sell a site on with planning and not build it out as we're developers? We value 2 things, return on cost, which is very common, but also return on time. If we can turn around a site with planning, achieve the planning and sell it within 6 months and get a healthy return that may outweigh us crystallising the value of that site and building out, we will explore that. So it's all about the value that someone else will pay, and there's a lot of people that can build cheaper than us and may crystallise a site at a higher rate, so we can explore selling that and getting rid of it. So with this particular site, we achieved planning within 4.5, 5 months and agreed to sell within 6 months of ownership. And that was quite a quick turnaround for us. And it's really strong when you have a good pipeline, because then you can forward fund those other developments that you might be needing soft capital and capital to work on.
To put that into perspective in terms of figures, we bought this site for £461,000, and the sale price that we achieved selling to a local developer with planning permission for the 3 houses and the office was £590,000. So a good jump in value for basically pushing some paper around.
So off to the next site now, see you in a minute. Make sure you click the subscribe button, ring that bell icon to make sure you can follow us and run your own successful business. Welcome to our site in Warborough, which is South Oxfordshire. This site we bought in October 2020 via an agent. We bought it for less than it was guided for. This particular site, we went in with an equity partner, and we're hoping to get planning uplift and also a development profit too. I'll let Ben talk a little bit about the planning we're working on.
Yeah, so this is a quiet little town in South Oxfordshire. We're surrounded by Grade 2 listed buildings. It's a conservation area. It is really picturesque. This is a 1960s bungalow that looks like shit. And what we're trying to do is knock it down, get planning permission to build a pair of semi-detached houses that really blend into the area. We've had that rejected on grounds of the tree proximity. We've resubmitted for a single family dwelling, a 5-bedroom, 2,700 square feet house.
So this isn't too great condition inside, so we wanted to show you what properties are sometimes like when we take them on, so follow us through. If you go in, you can see the condition of the kitchen. It's pretty dire, and this is the condition we took it on in.
Yeah, and it needs a bit of TLC.
Yeah, I wouldn't fancy moving in here, personally. So the carpet's extremely damp. It hasn't been lived in for a very long time. There's actually, you can see daylight through a slip tile there in the bathroom, just above the bath. So there isn't a shower head, but you could have a shower if you wanted to, via natural rain if you timed it well. So internally here, we've got a series of damp. It's pretty bad condition throughout. Evidently it hasn't been modernised, but it's also just in bad state of repair. Everything's pretty exposed, and we've got the loft ladder, up so we can inspect things. But there's no point in us really doing anything until we get planning permission to crack on and know what we're doing as an exit.
Yeah, so the bungalow is a 2-bedroom bungalow. It's separate kitchen, it's got a nice big lounge and then 2 bedrooms with 1 family bathroom, attached annex and utility space leading onto the garage. But it's your typical 1960s, 70s build. It's very ugly from the front street scene, and from a planning perspective, this is ripe for an infill development. Like I said before, it's a conservation area, so actually knocking it down and rebuilding something more in keeping was seen favourably by the local council.
So when we said we'd roll out the red carpet, this is what we meant for you. I suppose it's probably worthwhile talking about how we de-risk schemes. So the way that we ensure that we're not taking risk for us as a business or for us as partners of an investor is we evaluate what would be the cost to refurbish what's already here. No planning permissions, no conditions, no listed building consents, no conservation issues, just to refurbish what's here and sell that on, and that's what we base our purchase price on. So we de-risk it by understanding worst case, if we just refurbish what's here and sell it, can we make do, walk away, pay the investors and move on? And that's how we base this one, but the real bonus is the planning uplift that we can achieve, and we're obviously working on now.
Yeah, this property also comes with most properties come with permitted development rights, so we could extend out the back up to 4 metres, we could go into the loft and add additional 50 metres cubed of additional volume to the loft space if we wanted to go down that route to add some extra square footage, add some extra value, and that really is a decent fallback position to have. We are in a beautiful little town in the south of Oxfordshire called Abingdon. We are right next to the River Thames, which we'll see in a minute. This is the River Ock, which runs directly by this new site. This is fresh out of the press. We only purchased this property last Thursday, so we are going to take a quick look around and talk you through the development. So St Helens Mill House is behind me. That is what we've recently bought. This is St Helens Mill. This is part of the former mill, which has recently been converted into flats. This isn't the section that we own. We basically own from this courtyard forward and all of this building to the right-hand side. It's a beautiful period property, really high ceilings for the most part. There are 14 flats currently, and we are going to be refurbishing them all, going in for planning to try and extend the space and get some additional units in the site as well. So the main goal here from a planning permission perspective is to try and extend up to the loft on this right-hand side, so basically combine those 2 old roofs, extend further into the existing loft and add some extra rooms up in that space, and then we'll go around the back and I'll show you the additional potential out the back where the courtyard is. So this development is fairly unique. So we've got 2 different types of phasing on this project. We're going to first of all, once we've bought it, which has already happened, we're going to refurbish and refinance this. So it's 14 flats, already all tenanted out, bringing in an income of 120,000 per year. So that's a great income, and it's illogical to vacate all of the flats. So what we'd like to do is refurbish them one by one, and then we will have a much more valuable asset which will be worth 2.8 million. As a reminder, we bought this 1.5. That will cost us about 400k. Once we've done that, we've taken the income, we've refurbed it, we can settle with the asset and then go for our longer term play, which is planning permission. Now you can't see any changes at the front that we're going to make, but at the rear we're planning on putting about 3,000 square foot at the rear, which will be about a third additional, a total area of about 9, maybe 9,500 square foot across the building. So as you can tell, that now flips into more of like a development, which is obviously which we're more comfortable with, but why sort of rejig something that's already income producing, already creating a great yield. When we bought this, it was 8.5% after costs. So we got a really good incoming asset for an Oxfordshire-based asset. So part of our plans with this one is to get rid of this really, really unsafe, steep external staircase, install an internal stair core off one of the main central staircases currently that just can go up into the loft space, extend this section out to add more square footage, and I'll take you around the side to show you the rear where the real kind of added value can be found. So this particular development in Oxfordshire is 14 flats, and this we are working on an equity partner with. They've bought the asset with us. We've brought the time, expertise, deal and the delivery. They've brought the funds. We're sharing the upside, and we are realistically in this one for the long run. So it's the buy, refurbish, refinance model on the 14 flats, and then looking at planning and development. If you want to get in touch with deals like these, follow the link below and we can discuss in more detail. So we're at the back side, the north side of our block of 14 flats in Abingdon and Oxfordshire.
we would like to go in for planning permission to extend this out. Now, there's a number of reasons we'd like to do that. One, of added value or net saleable area, and as we're keeping it net rentable area. But the most important thing for me is this astonishing view that you have behind us of the cathedral and of Abingdon, which I'll show you now. So welcome to one of our HMOs in Abingdon, Oxfordshire. Not only do we do developments, we also do HMOs. Why? Because you get a massive return on your capital. So what we value is our return on the capital that we leave in the deal. So using this as an example, we bought this for 215,000 in October. We spent about £60,000 on it. There's about £10,000 worth of finance costs, about 5k in fees. So we were all in for, well, nearly 300k. This got revalued at 380,000 on a HMO product. So what does that mean? We left £30,000 in this property. It's bringing us 15 grand in a year net. So that means in 2 years, this asset owes us nothing. So this is why we love HMOs. Let's take a quick look inside. So you'll see we've got coded hand locks here. And that's specifically because tenants quite often lose their keys or maintenance people lose their keys. So this is a really easy way. So we have a landlord's code, we have an emergency code, and then the tenant sets their own code. So quite commonly on an iPhone, they'll set it's the same 4-digit code that they have, and they'll remember that. And if in an emergency they lose their key or they can't get in, we can give them a one-time user code that they can log into here. This is battery operated. And the batteries last for several years, so we never have an issue with that. So it's a really efficient way to make sure you're not getting call-outs just to let one tenant into their bedroom. So a little bit of a tip about acquisitions and persistence and keeping tabs on what something's selling or keeping on agents. This property went to market with a local agent. We were outbid by about £10,000. We were bidding 220,000. Someone outbid us with 230,000. We thought the deal was lost, but I kept contact. I made sure that I kept in frequent connection with that agent for months and months and months after. 4 months in, when the proceedable party that outbid me hadn't performed, I told the agent I could have bought this asset by now. To an agent, that's a fee that they're missing out on or delaying, and for a seller, that's a house that they couldn't sell or get moving on or be part of that chain moving forward. So with that knowing, the agent took that quite seriously. They actually then, because of this call, pulled the property from that higher bidder and put it into an auction. I then re-offered 220,000. The seller refused to let me have this property for 220 pre-auction, but the reserve was 210. What happened? A week later, we had bought it for 215 in auction. So we saved £5,000 by the ignorance of the buyer. But the key message here is persistence, keep tabs, don't rely on other people to ensure that you're chasing up these deals and making sure you're getting to them. Every single deal that I've ever offered on, I make sure I send a message, maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter, and just make sure that there's still not an opportunity there. You've done all the hard work, you've done the numbers, just pick that up again, make sure it's current, and re-offer on that property.
So this is our latest acquisition. It's actually completing legally tomorrow. We've secured this on an exchange delayed completion, which Jack will talk you through the nuances of. I'm here to talk to you about the planning process. So basically, we've acquired this property with planning permission in place to split the garden in two and create a new 2-bedroom new build property to the end terrace. So the planning process is fraught with difficulties. You are always well placed if you can de-risk that process. What we've done on this one is a pre-planning advice application with South Oxfordshire Council. So basically it's getting a really good understanding of what the council are likely to approve before actually making the full planning approval. So we submitted a scheme for a larger building, a 3-bedroom house. They wanted us to scale it back down in terms of size and garden amenity. And we've ended up with a 2-bedroom end terrace property. But without that pre-application process, we wouldn't have known that. We may have got rejected first time round.
Now, I just wanted to talk about the key element of de-risking deals like these. So we did 2 things which are pretty key on this particular project. Ben worked on pre-app and we were well ahead with planning before we even got anywhere near in legals to buy this. But I negotiated the exchange deposit down from 10% to just 10k. What that enabled us to do is low capital cost in, so if the planning didn't go through, we were fairly de-risked from the outset. Not only did we do that, but we also negotiated a longer period between exchange and completion. Typically this is 4 weeks. Planning normally takes 8 weeks. You can see the issue here. You might end up exchanging with a surmountable amount of money. In this case, it would have been £31,000. Not achieve planning and buy an asset that's probably not worth much more than just the asset on the right-hand side. So what we did is renegotiate the exchange deposit down to a third of the cost, but also extended the exchange to completion date by 3 times as long, which then enabled we could achieve planning before we bought it, which then also meant the bank would lend on a higher value with planning, which is exactly how we bought this.
So although we're buying this tomorrow legally, we're actually putting it straight back into an auction for 7 weeks' time. The beauty of this project is that we've got a garden plot with planning permission to build a new 2-bedroom house. Aside of that, we've also got the existing house, which needs about £40,000 to £50,000 doing to bring it up to modern day standards. Now, because we've got those 2 options, we're going to put it into the auction as a separate house and a building plot. Now, that will really drum up interest for both individually and hopefully get some really good bidding wars going on the day. The lot size of this will be somewhere around £100,000 to £125,000, which is a really good value to be for local builders, for small developers that just want to keep their team busy. You know, people that have construction in-house can build a lot cheaper than we can, and therefore can offer more because they're happy to take a lower margin and they can build for cheaper. So this is really exciting for us. We've put 2 things in auction over the last 3 months. It's actually a really good thrill. So if you haven't done it before, try it out. We'll keep you updated. Check out some of our previous videos to see some of the previous auction properties that we've sold.